Today is going to be a pretty quick video. I'm going to be going over this Saberbay Darksaber that I got a chance to work on. So I actually didn't install this lightsaber myself. It was sent to me pretty much fully installed already from the customer. There was just a couple weird things about the lightsaber he wanted me to fix and just basically finish it off for him. So with that being said, let me go over what I did to it. I won't be going over everything I did to it in order. I'm just going to go by what I see and what I remember. So to start, the buttons were a little bit weird. I fixed that. They weren't clicking properly when I first got it, so it was kind of getting stuck and was a little bit wonky, but now they click really nicely, and you don't have any accidental presses of both at the same time, or maybe not being able to press it properly. So I'll take it apart and tell you what was wrong with it, and what I did to fix it. This is all held in with a magnet, so you just got to find some way to take it off. There we go. As you can see in here, we've got a PCB. That PCB wasn't sitting flush inside of the little place it was sitting. The wires underneath it were not in the channel, so I just pushed the wires into the channel so that you could push it all the way down. But when I did that, the solder points were touching the aluminum that this whole PCB sits on, which was causing the accent crystal for the crystal chamber. Doesn't have a crystal in it yet, but caused that not to light up. So what I did was I added some Captain tape. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in there. You can kind of see it underneath. It's just some yellow. You can see it through there. Some yellow. I put that underneath as well as cleaning up the solder points. So I cleaned up the solder joints because they were sticking out and were pointy and whatnot. So I made them a little smoother and flatter, and then added the tape so that it doesn't touch the metal. And then I could push this PCB all the way down without it interfering with the crystal pixel, and it allowed the buttons to be pressed appropriately. So now we've got the clickiness, and it doesn't screw with the pixel. Now, the second thing I did was the main issue that it was sent in to me for. It was that these two pixels were not acting appropriately. The ones on the PCB and the one in here for the crystal, they were not doing what they should be doing. And what I discovered after a few things of troubleshooting was the PCB had a wire that had fallen off. So the negative wire had fallen off of its solder point on the PCB. So I just attached it and it pretty much worked how it should. And when I first got this lightsaber, the soundboard was just free floating in here with wires pretty much all over the bottom and on the top. There was a ton of them all over the top. So it kind of looked like, I guess it was a little bit of a mess of wires everywhere. And then all the points were a little bit more rough and sticking out and whatever else. I wish I had gotten some pictures beforehand, but this is what it looks like now. So as you can see, I moved all the wires to the bottom, which can be a bit tricky, but luckily I've worked with black wires before, so you just sort of take them, move them, and it's a lot of tiny tweezer work in order to get it to fit, especially because of how everything was set up in here. It was kind of hard to maneuver the board. There was a lot of wires going everywhere. There's still a ton of wires in here, but it's nice and packed down. So what I did was I moved all the black wires underneath after I fixed the whole situation happening there. And then in doing so, it messed up the OLED display wires because the way they were soldered, I guess the joints were a little bit weaker, so the wires kept snapping. So throughout this whole process, I had to keep rewiring the OLED display. At one point, I just took the OLED display out, redid all of the points or all of the solder joints on there so that it was less likely to come off, which helped quite a bit. And then I redid everything here, so they're all much nicer solder joints, much nicer to look at. They seem to be a bit stronger as well. So yeah, I redid this one, redid that a little bit, and just moved everything underneath, cleaned up everything, and then after that, the most difficult part was actually gluing the board down. So this chassis comes with a little board holder thing. That's this rectangular piece here, and it also extends underneath or between the SD card and the micro USB port. Can't really tell, but it's a rectangular piece that sort of holds the board, and then you push it down and then glue it in place. That was the hardest part because there were so many wires underneath here from the previous install, and I guess from me moving everything underneath. It was just, there's a lot of wires in there, and it's pretty tricky for me to try and fix it up. So I ended up just trying to lessen it as much as I can and then push it down, basically work with what I got. And after a very long time of me trying to use Loctite to push it down and failing at it, because every time I push it down, something else failed for whatever reason. Maybe a wire broke or something else wouldn't light. After a while, I gave up and just used E6000 instead. So I put E6000 on it, pushed it down, and I used my my crystal chamber insert for my own Saberbay Darksaber. I used that bit to make sure that this board was sitting as far down as it could, so that if the customer who sent this in to me to get it fixed and whatnot, to polish it up, if he wanted to get a crystal chamber insert, it would fit. So luckily I had my own, so I just put it in, pushed it down, and then I used some rubber bands around it in order to hold it all in place so that this could cure overnight. And then now it's super, super solid. Now the last thing I did, as you can tell, was add this crystal, or not this crystal, this pixel accent strip. This is a brand new strip that I've never used before. It's, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's a brand new one that's been released on some lightsaber shops. It's really nice to work with because it's got an adhesive on the back. The adhesive is not applied at the moment because the wires are doing a pretty good job holding it in place because they're so stiff. But if my customer wants to adhere it to the board, you just have to peel off the back side and then stick it on. Super easy, just use some tweezers, grab it, peel it off, stick it on. Then it's all set. Oh, I think I was off camera for that. But you just use some tweezers, peel off the underside, drag it off, and then just stick it on and you're all set. So I did wire this to the top of the board, which was pretty nice. It was pretty fun. And then I set it up to work pretty well with just a very basic effect. This is a battery level indicator. And then when you turn it on, it just does a little bit of an animation, then it'll go right back to the battery level indicator. And then it has a little bit of an off effect as well. And then you have the OLED display. And some weird stuff happens with the OLED display where if you turn it off, turn it on, and some sort of weird power cycling is happening, sometimes it doesn't turn on. And sometimes it shows a like whitish screen. I do not know why that happens. I think it must be how it's wired or whatever, or wherever it's attached, power distribution or something. Or maybe the OLED display is weird. But in any case, I determined that if there's some kind of weird way it turns on, sometimes it doesn't turn on like you had seen.
This is the way.
And sometimes it's white. And you can solve it by just taking the battery out, putting it back in, and then turning it on.
It belongs to
and there you go. You're all set. So it's whatever combination of that fixes it. It's some kind of power being trapped in there or it not hitting it appropriately. No idea, but that's just kind of how it works. So other than that, that's all I did to it. So just a quick recap. I moved all the wires underneath, cleaned up the solder points, added an extra accent strip. I fixed this one. It was just a loose wire. And then I cleaned up the solder points in here to make it flat, added a bit of a insulation tape thing, Captain tape underneath it so that it doesn't interrupt any of the pixels. And that is all I did. And it's really, really nice. So hopefully you like it. It'll be sent off like in an hour. And then if you have any questions, let me know. And this makes me just really excited to make my own Darksaber, which I've been putting off for like a year. But other than that, that should be it. I'll just put this together and then we'll close out the video. And we're back. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it despite it being shorter than usual. But you guys got a good look at this Saberbay Darksaber, and I will be making one of my own down the line. Anyways, thank you all once again for watching this video. If you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and thank you to the customer who sent this to me for trusting me with your lightsaber.